Andy Johnson, a quick update on a study that is in progress that I'm doing on a meaning-based intervention for reading. It examines the impact of this meaning-based intervention for reading on two struggling readers. Qualitative content analysis, we are looking at the number in types of reading miscues, and of course we are finding interesting stuff outside that too, and that is the joy of a qualitative study. Two materials are the meaning-based intervention, which is based on a product by Readosity, and Reading A to Z, a wonderful resource for struggling readers because they have all sorts of leveled books and you can choose quickly. Again, two struggling readers. They are in fourth grade, reading at about the first grade level, approximately. These are just approximation. Both have been identified by their teachers having reading difficulties, and after 3 years of reading interventions focusing on the phonological cueing system, they are still reading at the first grade level. Did look at some test data. It didn't tell me anything. It simply told me how far they were away from average. It didn't tell me any diagnostic data, what I needed to do to help these readers. So I did a qualitative reading inventory that looks at a miscue, reading miscue, and it you can measure fluency and comprehension as well. So student A was reading about the first grade level, 97% accuracy at the first grade level. That puts him at the high instructional level for word identification. His fluency was 51 words per minute. Almost half his miscues were meaningful miscues. This means he's using what's in his head to create meaning. Fluency is a problem with student A. He made 10 self-corrections. Again, that is a strength. That is great. That means he's using metacognition. He's stopping to think, does it make sense? Comprehension at this level was just fine. So word identification at the high instructional level, comprehension at the independent level. And that often occurs, word identification and comprehension being at two different levels. Student B, her level 1 was at 98% of the words correctly identified or non-miscued word. This tells me that that's her independent reading level, and you can see her fluency is just fine. Level 2, 94%, that is her instructional level. And again, you can see fluency go down there based on that. What is interesting is most of the miscues were meaningful miscues. That means she's focusing on reading, not correctly identifying the words. Of the 6 meaning disrupting miscues, that means they make no sense. This is what's interesting. All but 3 were grammatically correct, meaning they inserted the grammatically correct word in there instead of the word that's on the page. This means she is using syntax, her syntactic cueing system, to create meaning with text. So the goal for this is to build on their strengths. And notice I use their strengths were metacognition, building self-confidence, and self-correcting, and to develop their ability to create meaning with print. And we are this intervention, we want to limit the encounter that students have with single words outside a meaningful context. All 3 cueing systems are developed. We have activities to do that. We do daily short passage fluency activities. This has been very interesting so far. And the sessions are 15 minutes, briskly paced activities to keep them engaged. Very short. So just some big ideas that I've discovered after week 1, or things that I am seeing. I'm seeing that trust and relationship is such an important variable here. You can't demand trust. You can't coerce or manipulate students with rewards and punishments. That just doesn't work. So the behaviors I saw on day 1 were much different than the behaviors I saw on day 5 as we are developing trust. Trust is earned, not given. I want them to feel safe and comfortable, meaning that I will not frustrate them, humiliate them, make them feel stupid, or ask them to do things that they can't do. Relationship is an important variable that's often not accounted for in many research studies. Numbers tell us something, but they are meaningless without understanding the context in which the numbers were collected. So context is always very important. Students want to read, they want to learn. That is their natural state. They don't want to feel frustrated, humiliated, or made stupid. These students want to read and are engaging. Authentic literacy activities is rewarding in and of itself. And again, we don't have to have stickers, rewards, or punishments. We simply have to have good books and have them reading for real purposes. Today, I'm at the end of week 2, but I'm describing week 1. The language experience approach activities I'm using, students are much more engaged and their stories are going well beyond the 5-sentence limit that we impose. So we can see that this authentic literacy is rewarding in and of itself as students become more engaged. I learned sometimes I have to slow it down to speed it up. The first day I was so concerned about getting in all the activities. I learned that I needed to take time to interact with the students a little bit. And students, if I slow down and have just a pause between the briskly paced activities, this gives them some processing time. Fidelity as an educational practice is malpractice, mindless fidelity. That's when states require that a research-based reading intervention be implemented exactly as the instructions call for. This, of course, is complete nonsense, and I'm seeing that with this study as well. I have, I had a set of research-based strategies. I had it all designed, but as I got in and as I see students actually engaging, I found I had to make little tweaks here and there. If I would have insisted that I implement meaning-based intervention with fidelity, I would not get some of the things or see some of the progress that I'm making. Struggling readers are not standardized products. Teachers are not standardized products. We don't exist in standardized schools and classrooms. Every program, every strategy needs to be adopted and adapted to meet the needs of students. Now, we're trying to offer as much choice as we can within the structure of this. Not total choice, but choice within the structure to develop self-efficacy and self-determination. Choice varies. Too often in instruction and interventions, it's something done to students, not with them. So we're working on explaining the process to them and giving them as much choice. Choice is what book do you want to read? What do you want to write about? So we're giving them as much choice. Now, we do not want to rob them of the experience to self-correct. When a student miscues or makes an error, there's a tendency to jump in and correct. And we are really finding that. Students know when the sentence doesn't make sense. Both of these are exhibiting metacognition. And if I jump in and correct them right away, I rob them of that experience. The teacher gives feedback and corrects, not the student. And we want to make sure that students are self-correcting to the greatest extent. And you're a human being here. This varies. There are times when you do have to self-correct. You don't want to frustrate a student. So, that varies. We're doing things within the zone of proximal development. That means just above their independent level, at their instructional level. And we use scaffolding to support the student. We don't want the students to experience failure or frustration. Now, that does not mean we simply provide easy activities, but we provide activities and give them the support they need to be able to do the activities. You don't simply challenging the student does a little good. And as I said at the top of this, we are using books, online books, reading A to Z. The value of this is they are online, a whole bunch of them, and you can quickly move from one to the next, and they are at different levels. And I'm allowing students to choose the level and the books. And we're at level B. And C, students chose to move up to level C, and they're choosing the books that they want to read. This choice is important. We generally read 3 books a day, so they are experiencing encounters with print, and that is a good thing.